Hello, Internet. It's time for a short, off-the-cuff, really whatever. This just doesn't happen all the time. Wednesday's cereal. So let's do this. So I rarely just come on and talk about, hey guys, I bought a comic. But that's what I'm doing this time, because as you can see from the bookshelves behind me, as I can see from the boxes in front of me, I occasionally buy a comic at least every week. And so, if you keep doing it, sometimes a story of the triumph of just pure American capitalism just comes through. So that's what I have for you today, a tale of comic collecting, something that only you who have been doing such a thing could appreciate, and I wanted to share my tale. What happened was that I was at my local comic shop, and they've been much more awesome about this lately. I found the old JLA run from when like Morrison and then Kelly and Mark Waid and then others were doing it, kind of late 90s, early 2000s. And pretty much the entire run of that in trades was on the wall for half off. When you add it all up, it's still a pretty penny, but it was awesome, so I just grabbed it. So it looks like this, and then it was various printings of it, so some of them are numbered, some of them aren't. I guess they learned eventually that numbering's good. Whatever, it's trades, right? So, and I've actually read through a few of them. What's interesting is the first two actually are, they look like those prestige kind of Elseworld special editions they used to do, like a really thick, like, self-contained graphic novel, but they're not. They're just 4 and then 5 issues, which is interesting because I actually bought from a friend the first 9 issues here, but don't need them anymore, and I never got to them before buying the trades because there's something more prohibitive about reading the issues because they're all bagged and boarded. Whatever, right? But that's not the big one. The one trade that was missing from the entire run, as I'm sure you could guess, was the Tower of Babel, which if you look through any of the regular sources, it's either sold out on like InStockTrades.com or whatever. That's one of my go-tos. And then I was looking at a couple other comic shops and Amazon, and it was like $20 to $30 depending on condition, how available it was on that site, which I understand why it's a hard to find trade, and it's really a pretty notable story. If you're unfamiliar with it, I'd say go pick it up, but like I said, it's a little bit expensive. But that is the one of Grant Morrison writing Batman at his height and making him so super powerful. That's the story where Batman takes down the JLA, and it's not, read it, but it is that. And it's a very notable story in DC canon, and so I understand why that happened, and why they certainly weren't selling it for half off, because why would they? But it wasn't even there. But here's the story. Here's the weirdo part. I went online and just started looking through like looking by the title on Google, basically. And I found this site called Evolutionary Muse. And I didn't really think about the title, I just found it, and then they said it was in stock, and it was like $8 plus shipping. And, you know, that's obviously, you know, 8's way better than 20, right? And then shipping's pretty comparable. And I thought, there's no way this is real. And I started poking around the site. They didn't sell comics. Actually, if I didn't have that link, I wouldn't have been able to get back to it. It wasn't actually like on the site, like you had to click in through the way I looked, otherwise it wouldn't be there. And this site was a bodybuilding site, and it was like protein powders and protein shakes, that sort of thing, and some sort of just like all that kind of stuff, and that's all that they were selling. But I found this link to buy the comic from them. I was like, I don't know. But I was like, well, I'm going to risk it, because if this turns out it's going to be kind of cool and, you know, kind of a memory in a comic sort of thing. So, took the risk. And it wasn't much of a risk because it went through PayPal, so I'm like, if this doesn't go through with PayPal, it's like they fucking gypped me. They never gave me the thing I ordered, and they'll suss it out. Plus, it's like $10, so... I mean, you don't want to throw away $10, but... So, yeah. So, it showed up in totally a reasonable amount of time, but I emailed them beforehand because they didn't give me anything right up front. I'm like, so is this, like, happening? Because this seems a little offbeat. They're like, yeah, no, it's shipping, whatever. It came, I mean, it's not in perfect condition. There's a little bend on the corner, a little, obviously, where there's a price tag, a little bit of goop, but, I mean, for what it is, for what I got it for, whatever, man. But it was totally crazy to pick that up. But, yeah, to not just be one of those people who's like, I bought some comics, and I don't know, I just buy comics. I don't read them. I just put them in a bag, and then I get some cement and slab it, and then I put it away where it's safe. I read some of it. It's kind of interesting because it was very much in this transformative time for DC, where they're kind of trying to pull a relaunch, pull a new 52 without sucking. Well, debatable, but it was definitely, they were just continuing the line. The numbers continue and everything. So, you get to the third trade, Wonder Woman is dead for a while, which is interesting, because I didn't actually know that Wonder Woman had ever died. Although I knew Artemis came in at some point, but I thought she was just, like, out of commission. I don't know. But okay. So, Wonder Woman's out of the picture for a bit. It was definitely when Kyle was the Green Lantern, in a way where they kind of had the Green Lantern rip off Nova, even though Nova was a rip off of Green Lantern. You have that cycle going. But it was when Kyle was up and coming, so that was interesting and kind of a period that I knew a little bit about and I like, because Kyle's my favorite Green Lantern. That's partially why, is because there's a different energy about that. Flash, nothing too big. Wally West, whatever. Batman, I guess Batman was doing fine then. Although I think they're kicking up Batman with more like, I always want to say City at War, but No Man's Land. Aquaman had the Hook. I guess that was edgy or different. I don't know. If anyone knows Aquaman around that time, let me know, because I don't know dick about Aquaman. I don't know fish dick about Aquaman. But the fun one, the big one, you know who, Super-da-doop. Superman was in his much loathed blue period. And I do remember at a certain point there was a blue and a red Superman. It was brought to my attention that there was some 3D comic at one point. But for the most part, he was just blue at first. I assume it has something to do with Livewire. I don't know, but I'd assume. And I know those were really hated comics, pretty universally, kind of like the Clone Saga for Spider-Man of the time. Only blue Superman. So, reading it now, though, it plays a big part into it as Superman's like, I'm trying to rely on the old powers, but he's like using all this crazy electric stuff to like magnode the moon to move it, so his power level is a little glitched, but a little more like Earth 2 Superman, you know, crazy throwing planet stuff. Not quite, but, you know, more powerful, and then using electricity in weird ways, and that's interesting. They also eventually bring in a couple other characters. Aztec, who was someone they were trying to play up who obviously didn't take. And then Connor as the Green Arrow, which is a period that I am wholly unfamiliar with, as I just finished a huge Green Arrow run, and he was really, I mean, he was there, but this was all that. So all these guys pretty much have something a little different going on, except for Batman and the Flash. So it's kind of cool to see, and it's kind of cool to actually read this, because it's interesting, because this is at a time when like JLA and the Avengers were kind of more butting heads, and when Marvel and DC were a little more, the competition was a bit more fierce and friendly and worthwhile, because I don't really feel they're competitors still, but they're not like kind of like edging on each other, sniping at each other a little bit. And this was cool because this was the time when JLA was very much, you know, this like team of the best of DC, whereas the Avengers was kind of this team of characters that for the most part you didn't care about outside the Avengers. This is all the big guns of DC, and just seeing that go through, and then just see kind of this like weird different villain thing, what it takes to kind of challenge all these gods of the universe, and how, of course, how it's always Batman that pretty much saves the day. So yeah, it's pretty crazy, and it's an interesting run, and so far, at least for the Grant Morrison stuff, I would highly recommend it. And it's easy to see now, reading some of this and remembering some of the other stuff he did, why Grant Morrison is such an important figure in comics, because reading his Batman stuff, I don't see it. Maybe you see it. I don't. I think it's bad, or at least not good. And certainly not as good as this. Even though this is a bit more straight and maybe a little less creative in a lot of ways, but it's interesting, plays with stuff, and has some very notable moments and whatever. It's not groundbreaking, it's not high art, but it's good. Motherfucking JLA! Alright. Peace out. Catch y'all later. Comic talkie stock stuff. Announcements. I'm gonna be on Travis Oddfellows Thoughts Saturday night, West Coast time ish, and we're talking about certain books. I'm going to be talking about Days of Vengeance, and other people will be talking about other stuff. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it's going to be interesting. We're going to be talking about the books a bit more in depth. And that's more his show, but it's going to be awesome, so you should all check it out live or post live, the way that YouTube was meant to be watched. I think. I actually wasn't in the meeting when they talked about the intentions of YouTube, but I'm just guessing. Alright. See y'all, suckers.